All right, you guys, this is episode 13 of Inner Demons. I'm going to get straight into it. So, episode 12. At the tail end of episode 12, I talked about the altercation that I had with Rascal from Grape Street. And then I mentioned that I still had to discuss like the Fresno split. Fresno was still out there on the yard with us back in 91, 92. This was before Fresno would call for their absolute independence. I mean, later on, years later, Fresno would become arch enemies with the NF, with the North Annual Collective, and they wouldn't even be allowed to walk foot on an active yard. Back in those days, 91, 92, there was a lot of good homeboys from Fresno out there on the yard with us. I used to kick it with those guys, man. I used to play pinochle with them. I used to play handball with them. They were out there, but you can already see that Fresno had already started to isolate itself. They would be out on the yard, and it would be just all Fresno homeboys kicking it. You know what I mean? It was the politics. You know what I mean? By then, Crackers and Flacco from Fresno had already planted the seed, the F-14 seed, and the Bulldogs had already started to formulate. So there were several incidents that continued to happen out there on the Lassen yard. I mentioned a couple of them as far as like the politics that had escalated between a couple of the hermanos out there, Sleepy from San Jose, Chino from Salinas. Both of these individuals were vying for the leadership position out there, and it had got so bad that they had almost stabbed each other. I had to literally get in between both of these guys. So let me get back to the, basically to the program out there on the Lassen yard. So as a hermano, by now everybody knew my status. So anyway, I know that, once I left San Quentin, Paula Elevancia, Puerto Rican Puppet, and Chocolate told me to basically fly under the radar, to keep my status to myself. But it was nearly impossible. The yard, when you're out there on the yard, the Norteños, they know who the hermanos are. There's no keeping it secret, man. Although I tried to do that when I first got there, it just didn't happen. So when I hit the 3-yard, Geronimo from Chole, he ended up coming out of the hole. He was out there. There was another hermano named Noodles that was out there. There was only like 3 or 4 of us. Then Duke came, but Duke ended up paroling. Duke from San Jose. It was my responsibility. I was appointed by Geronimo to be one of the yard securities. It was my responsibility to basically be out there on the yard from the first unlock in the morning until the last unlock in the evening. There was night yard in Susanville at that time, so I was basically on the yard all day with the weapon. I was required to keep a weapon on me, or to keep a weapon somewhere at the ready on the yard somewhere. And that's just being part of yard security. It was me, and there was 2 other hermanos that were appointed to do that out there on the yard. From dusk to dawn, we were out there keeping security on the yard, watching, monitoring the yard, watching the sureños, watching the woods, watching African, basically just watching the yard, making sure that nothing was happening out there. It was, if something was happening, like I said before, once you've been to prison and you've been out on the yard, you can read a yard, especially if you're a yard security, you have to be able to read a yard. You have to be able to know when something's amiss out there, when there's reason for putting the homies on notice that something might be happening. I've already discussed some of them. 90 degrees, everybody's got their jackets on, their state issue. There's more people on the yard than normal. You know what I mean? Grouping is another one. A lot of the time, most of the time, weapons are going to be buried out in the field. obviously you can't bury them in concrete, so they're going to be out in the field. If you see certain individuals that are out there in the field, kind of just laying on the grass, just chilling, 2 or 3 Southsiders or 2 or 3 Woods, you know they're digging up a weapon. And when you see that, that it would be my responsibility to put the homies on a half 60 or a quarter 60. That's what my whole purpose was for. It's probably like the first 3 months when I was out, or the first, I want to say the first month, not the first 3 months, because I didn't stay out there too long on the main line. So eventually I ended up getting a job. I told you guys how I was working in the kitchen, and I was lead man, working the line in one of the kitchens. From that job there, I didn't like working in the kitchen. I ended up getting another job that was, it just fell into my lap, man, and it was probably the best job on the yard, with the exception of some of the jobs that paid out there. Working in the clerical, I didn't want to be stuck in the watch office working around the administration or nothing like, or working in the laundry, working in the canteen. Those were good jobs, but the job I had was probably the best job on the yard, recreation clerk. So I ended up meeting the coach that, and this was prior to them gutting the gym. I told you guys how in 91, 92, not just in Susanville, but throughout the state of California, how all the prisons were gutting the gyms, and this was to ease the overcrowding. They were putting in bunk beds, triple stacked, and this basically, it allowed these institutions, the different yards. They did the same thing like in Susanville. They did it on the 1 yard, the 2 yard, and the 3 yard. Each one has its own gym. So this allowed Susanville, just Susanville alone, to probably house another 1,500 inmates, because each gym had about, I want to say about a good 500 inmates in the gym, in each one of the gyms. So I got a job working as the recreation clerk. My job was to pass out the dimes. This is when we still had weight piles. Keep in mind, we still had, the weight piles were still out there. That was probably the best thing about prison back in those days. So my job was, I worked in this little enclosure, which I'll explain in a minute, but I passed out the dimes. I passed out any of the equipment, the softball equipment, the basketballs, the weight belts, the soccer ball. What else was in there? It was like just a little small, a little small shed, and it had all the equipment in there. And whenever somebody would check it out, also the horseshoes, I had the horseshoes were in there. So when somebody would check out some of the equipment, they'd give me their ID, and there was like a little board, and I put their ID in the little in the slot for whatever they were checking out. The dimes had to stay inside the recreation shacks, that little shed. They didn't keep them on the yard because they were weapons, basically. You could take a dime and you could smack somebody upside the head. So that's my guess. That's why they kept the dimes. Yeah, so it was basically my responsibility to pass out all the equipment. The good thing about working in the recreation shack is, so the recreation shack was right next to on the 3 yard. It was right next to the first chow hall, and it was in between the chow hall and the gym, and it was fully enclosed. There was a fence all the way around it, and then there was like a big square opening in the fence where there was a combination lock, and I could open it, and that's where I used to pass out all the equipment. The other good thing is Susanville used to snow all the time. And I'm surprised they allowed me to do this, because they're usually kind of funny about shit like this. But during the winter time when it would snow heavy, the coach allowed me to take a steel garbage can, put it on 200-pound dumbbells, and then they bring me wood, and I'd literally be out there driving iron with the fucking wood burning it was cool, man. And then right after breakfast, there was a big thermostat that I used to keep inside the shack, and the coach would go in there and fill up the thermostat with all the leftover coffee from breakfast in the chow hall. So literally, man, I had homeboys coming over all morning, all day to get coffee and to just chill over there, man. I used to have a fire burning. The one thing too, man, and I know this is got nothing to do with this, but I could never find homeboys that were willing to work out with me. I'm talking about on a consistent basis. I had a whole fucking weight pile back there to myself. I had a weight bench, I had a preacher bar, I had an incline bar, I had a whole set of weights from 25-pound dumbbells all the way up to 100-pound dumbbells. I had probably like close to 300 pounds worth of quarters from my bench. I had curl bars. I had a whole weight set to myself, man. So, I mean, I was doing it live over there, man. All day, my own weight pile. I didn't have to fucking bother with anybody else, asking anybody else if I could, get this, the 55s or if I could use this bar. I had my own shit. There were homeboys that would work out, but then they'd work out with me and then they'd end up falling off like 2-3 weeks later, man. I was into it, man. I got big as fuck when I was in Susanville. That Puerto Rican blood, man, I had the genetics to where, man, I blew the fuck up. I was always known for my size when I was younger, and that was the ideal job for me. Eventually, I ended up there was a couple Samoans from the city that I knew. Those were the motherfuckers that started working out with me in there. They would come in there with me, and they were consistent. And these motherfuckers were hogs, man. There was 3 of them. All 3 of them were huge, man. You know how big Samoans are, but these motherfuckers, they were just some big ass dudes, little thin waists, big ass fucking upper bodies, and they're all 3 of them, man. All 3 of them had size on them. So I used to get my money with those dudes. Anyway, the other good thing about the recreation job is that I had a clear vantage point to scan the whole yard from where I was at. I could see everything. So I'd be working out, but I'd be reading the yard as well. And it was still my responsibility as being out there as a hermano to continue to monitor the yard. So the incident and some of these things, they happened out of order, as I'm telling you guys. Like the incident that happened with Joe and Joel, my homeboy, that ended up happening later. There was when I first got to Susanville, there was a good homeboy of mine named Wizard from the city. He was a good tattoo artist, man, one of the best that I had seen at that time. Me and him ended up selling up together, and he did a lot of my work. He did the mission on my stomach. He did my right arm, and he just did he did a little bit of my chest. He did some work here and there, man. But homeboy, he was a YA baby, but he was sharp. He was a sharp dude, man. Even though he wasn't a hermano, he had a lot of game, man, and he laced me up. He passed on what the things that he had learned, not just from YA, but in prison. And I looked up to the homie. He was a solid dude, man. So I think he had about 2 months. He stayed there with me in Susanville for about 2 months. We were celled up, and he did what work he could on me. He ended up paroling and fucking got killed out there on the streets, man. Good homeboy. Lot of homies that did a lot of YA time. They know Wizard. They knew of Wizard. He was a good dude, and he handled his business, man. He was known for putting it down and always being a good, solid homie. as far as all that goes. But you know, the fucked up thing is what would end up happening is, okay, so I know this is kind of going off topic, but let me explain what happened to the homie. So he got out. I guess he was with one of the homegirls that I know, Flaca Negra. She'd end up being a close friend of my mother's, my daughter's, my baby's mama. But I guess Wizard hooked up with her, and there was another homeboy named Pep from Cortland, Jose Maya. He was out there with his lady, and I guess they pulled up to the fucking. They went to the beach that day, and they were by the Cliff House. And I guess, you know, when they got out their car, they seen some Asian cat whooping on his girl. This is just the version that I got, man. Old boy was whooping on his girl, and Flaca Negra said something like, you know, why don't you leave her alone? And you know, the Asian cat, he snapped back at her, said something to her, called her out her name, told her shut the fuck up, you fucking bitch, or something like that. And because of that, Wizard spoke up and he was like, hey bro, watch your fucking mouth, homie, you know what I mean? Watch who you talking to. And however it happened, they got into a conflict, and it ended up turning physical, and old boy pulled a blade out, man, and hit my boy in the stomach. He hit him with the one-hitter quitter. He bled out in less than 5 minutes, man. Man, when I heard about it, it fucking tore me up, man. He was a good dude. He was a good homie. I would end up seeing Pep later on, because I had heard, man, the way I got it when I heard about it is that Pep was with him and Pep took off, man. Pep ran on him. That's what I heard. Somebody lied and just threw that out there, but that's what I got, man. And when I ended up seeing Pep when I got out of prison, and me and Pep used to be tight, man. We went to school together. We used to run around the streets together. I seen him, I jammed him up, and I took off on him. And basically, after I took off on him, he fucking just like, he turned around, he started jogging down. He was like, hey bro, you're tripping on me, you know what I mean? He ran straight up. Pep ain't no punk, but I don't know, maybe he thought I was gonna stick him, or I don't know, but I would end up finding out later on that he didn't run, that the dude that actually stuck him in the hand, Pep tried to take the knife from the dude, and the dude hit him in the hand. You know, I'd end up seeing Pep later on again. I was like, hey, homie, I was wrong for that, bro. You know what I mean? My bad. But that's what happened, man. Like I said, I know that's off topic, but I don't know. Somebody might know Wizard. Somebody might know Pep, man. You know what I mean? So anyway, back to Susie's house, man. So yeah, one of you guys on one of the lives too, man. They said one of the old adages it's always been said about Susanville. It's always 10:30 at Susie's house, man. And for those of you that been to Susanville, for those of you that done time, you guys know what I'm talking about. A 10:30 is a confidential disclosure form. So basically what they're saying is people are always telling in Susanville. It's always 10:30 at Susie's house. And that ain't no lie, man. Motherfuckers were dropping dimes over there. So let me just say this. So I'm working the recreation job over there. I'm the recreation clerk over there, and I maintained that job up until the whole time that I was out there on the yard, up until shit would end up going bad and I'd end up getting validated. So there were several incidents, man. There were several incidents that happened out there. The Africanos and the Southsiders got into it. Southsider hit an Africano on the basketball court, and the fucking Africano dropped, took his win right there. On the 2-yard, the Southsiders ended up getting into it with the Africanos over there, and they They basically harpooned another Africano while he was asleep. 3 of them. They all came in. I remember Sparky, Sparky. What's his name, man? From Trigger from. Oh, where the fuck was he from, man? No, Joker, Baby Joker from Hazard. Lazy from Venice. Sparky from I don't know where. There was a bunch of them. They were all fighting a murder for that incident right there. Let me see what else happened. What else happened that's noteworthy to talk about. So let's talk a little bit more about Fresno, man. So, like I said, I had a good rapport with Fresno, but a lot of these guys from Fresno, the ones that have done time before, that have been around, they were kind of pulling the youngsters. They were kind of pulling. As time went on, they were becoming more and more isolated. There was an incident that happened out there on the yard between Fresno and the Southsiders. Now, you guys got to keep in mind that Fresno was going through a transition. They were going through a split. They were basically calling for their own independence at that time. But when they got into it with the Southsiders weren't making no distinctions between Fresno and Norteños. So all the Southsiders knew is that they were getting into it with the Norteños. They weren't like, hey, we're gonna get into it with just Fresno and not the rest of the Norteños, or we're gonna get into it with just the Norteños and leave Fresno out of it. They weren't making no distinctions like that. When Fresno got into it with these Southsiders, it ended up getting the rest of us involved, and that's what Fresno wasn't realizing, man. So the incident ended up happening. The incident ended up kicking off between some cat named Tiny from Fresno, and there were 2 Southsiders. There was a youngster and an older dude that used to walk the track. These dudes, they were both in the gym, but whatever happened, all we were told is that these guys had words and they confronted each other, and that it was gonna be on, man. So I'm in the recreation. I'm at work on the morning of the incident. I'm at work doing what I do. I'm in there driving with the Usos, and we're drinking coffee, and I'm watching the yard, and we were on a half 60 because something was definitely happening. And Fresno basically they put us on notice that they were gonna hit that youngster that was with the older guy, that they were gonna move on him because he allegedly disrespected him. So we were like, cool, set it off, and we'll just keep it going. We'll keep it pushing, man. We got you guys' back, right? But Fresno was like, nah. It's between us and them, man. Nah, bro. They're not making no distinction. You guys need to understand that. That became a major issue out there. It became a major issue of contention because although we were aware of the split, and it was our politics, man. The Southsiders weren't acknowledging that, and that's what Fresno didn't understand. If you motherfuckers get into it with them, they're not just gonna retaliate against Fresno. They're gonna come retaliate against Norteños. Period. So if you guys kick it off, we're all gonna kick it off, man. So anyway, I put everybody on a half 60 on the yard that day. We're on a half 60. Fresno's supposed to move on these cats, man. So everybody was on notice. I watched the whole incident unfold, man. Literally from across the fucking yard. I see Tiny's big ass, the homeboy from Fresno, that kicked this shit off, or that it had escalated over. I see him and another cat from Sanger walking the track, and the youngster and the old man are walking the track. They're walking the track, and they're basically walking in different directions. They're headed for each other. So if something's gonna kick off, it's gonna kick off once these guys cross paths, and they're headed for each other. I'm watching them from clear across the yard. So I'm watching them, and I even tell one of the Usos, check it out, man. Watch these cats over there, man. You know what I mean? Something's about to kick right now. So I'm watching them. As they get closer, I can tell that they're having words. And I don't know what the fuck the homeboy from Sanger was thinking. I don't know what Tiny was thinking. But they walked right up on these dudes, and these dudes pulled razors out and let them have it. They sliced them up. It was quick. Bam, yard down, right? They laid the yard down. So I'm locked in my little enclosure. The weight pile goes down, the yard goes down, and they start doing yard recall. They start running people in by set, they'll run like 15 of these guys in that are on the field, and then they'll run like another 15 of these guys that are over here on the yard. And so that's how they're doing it, to try to prevent any kind of retaliation. They're keeping everybody separate. As far as I was concerned, it was on. Fresno, the two homies from Fresno got hit, and now it was up to us to answer the call, man. These guys got their money, they got paid, man. So that's how I was looking at it. You know what I mean? I dug up my pedazo. I had my pedazo right there. That was the other good thing about the recreation job, is not only did I have my pedazo in there, a nasty one, big old piece of steel, man, straight from the vocation, a flat. I had the other hermanos, their weapons were in there too. I had a bunch of them stashed in that motherfucker. They could have ran a fucking a metal detector over that shit, and it would have been fucking, that motherfucker would have been going off the hook, man. I had metal everywhere up in there, man. So anyway, I dig up that pedazo. I took a chance because I didn't know if they were searching. I didn't know what they were doing, but where I was at in the recreation enclosure, I had to walk all the way to building 5, and the way I was looking at it is if I can catch one of these guys slipping on my way to building 5 or in the sally port or in the building, fuck it, it's on, man. That didn't happen. Obviously, it didn't happen. I ended up, once they ran me in and some of the other cats that were on the weight pile and some of the other dudes that were on the yard, they just ran us into our building. I had the pedazo. I actually had to get rid of the motherfucker because we went on lockdown, and they started doing searches and shit. So we went on control feeding and modified program. They kept us and the Southsiders apart. You know what I mean? Now again, man, this became a major point of contention because there was a lot of young Norteños on the yard that they were blind and they needed leadership out there. They needed guidance, man. I was still learning. I was 19 years old, but at least I had the presence of mind to know that the issue was, man, is that Fresno was trying to fucking, their whole thing is that this conflict is our conflict. It's between us and the Southsiders. But no, it's not. What you guys again keep failing to understand is the Sureños are not making a distinction between, they're not recognizing your split. They're gonna retaliate against Norteños, period. They're not gonna recognize the divisions within our car, man, within our collective. They're just not. So it's our war. You know what I'm saying? And that's how I was trying to push it. And that's how some of the other hermanos were trying to push it. We're gonna all move together. We're gonna, two homeboys got hit, and we're gonna send a bunch of fucking torpedoes back to retaliate, man. And I was one of them. I had raised my hand. It was like, man, I'm gonna tell you guys like this. Whenever an incident would kick off in Susanville, until we did our shit, we were looking bad, man. Because the Southsiders, they pulled that shit on the 2-yard with Weasel when they rushed them. They sent that squad of 8 threw coffee and hot water in his face. They went stomped him out. They packed the homie out, right? Yeah, Ruben and Johnny went back to our dorm, and we got that older Southsider. We beat him up, and there was a couple other Southsiders that got beat up on the yard. But it was nothing, man. Nobody got stabbed. And after we were gone, none of the other Norteños over there retaliated. They just started programming again. I couldn't believe it, man. It was discouraging. Now, when these two guys from Fresno got hit, all the hermanos got together while we were on modified program, and we knew that somebody was gonna have to retaliate. And it was like there was some other older hermanos that had been there, that had been around longer than me. They were more seasoned than me at that time. And it's like we all got in a circle and we're talking about what needs to be done. And everybody knew it, but nobody was raising their hand. Nobody was taking the initiative to say, I'll go. You know what I mean? I'll be one of the ones to take flight, man. You know what I mean? Obviously, everybody can't go. We can't give up the yard. We still have to keep the yard established. Some of the hermanos still need to stay back. We can't just send the whole crew. So I'm listening as a youngster, man, to some of these older hermanos, and everybody's talking about what needs to be done, but nobody, like I said, nobody's raising their fucking hand. So eventually I was like, hey, I'll fucking go, man. I'll do it. You know what I'm saying? I'll be one of the ones to go. Who's going with me? You know what I mean? And nobody fucking raised their hand to go with me. You know what I mean? I was like, fuck it, I'll go by myself then. It was crazy, man. It was times like that were discouraging. You know what I mean? So anyway, I raised my hand to retaliate. I had picked my target out. It was a Sureño that had nothing to do with it. It was going to be my target, but because he had a lot of influence, that's who I was going to hit. And you know, this dude was always surrounded with 4 or 5 youngsters, so it would have made a lot more sense if somebody would have went with me, but nobody raised their hand, man. So anyway, after we go through modified program, and after we they do control feeding for, I don't know, man, month and a half, whatever it was. At some point, they let us all come back out. This is when I was gonna retaliate. So the day that I was gonna go, you know, I remember, man. Was I scared? Of course I was, man. I'm basically gonna go and stab somebody on a yard under the gun tower. I don't know if I'm gonna get shot. I don't know what's gonna happen. It's the unknown that I feared. This dude always had 3 or 4 youngsters around him, so that was something else I was gonna have to contend with. There was nobody backing me up. There was nobody going with me. But I was like, fuck it, man. I don't need nobody to go with me. I don't need nobody to hold my hand. I can do it by myself. I just need to creep up on this dude, man. So the day that I went to hit this dude, everything was planned out. The hermanos said, you know what? You're gonna go pick up the weapon. It's gonna be on the way, pal. The homie's gonna have it. So go get the weapon, and then whenever you want to pull the trigger, it's on you. So my thing was, I was gonna go get the weapon. I was gonna walk the track 2 or 3 times. Now the dude that I was gonna hit was the Southsider I was gonna hit. Shout out to all my Southside boys, man. Again, this is old shit that I'm just going through my history. You guys already know, man. Like I said before, I know that we all got shit that we done in our past, man, and it's in the past. You know what I mean? I got nothing but love and respect for a lot of you cats, and that shit's in the past. But in for the sake of these inner demons, man, I got to talk about some of this stuff. So don't take it personal. You know what I mean? And I know most of you don't, especially those that know what time it is, man. But anyway, so the plan was for me to go to the weight pile, retrieve the weapon, and then walk the track a couple times and try to creep up on this individual. So the guy that I was gonna hit was in front of building 5. He was sitting at a table, and like I said, he was always surrounded by about 4 or 5 youngsters. Well, that day he was surrounded by about 8 or 9 youngsters. They were playing pinochle, and he was sitting at the table, and he was sitting in a good position because he was sitting on a seat that was closest to the walkway. So if I was going to building 5, me walking up the walkway, it wouldn't have looked suspicious. I would have been able to basically walk up and then just take flight. So I go to the weight pile. I got on all my state issue shit. Everything in the cell's packed up. I know I'm going to the hole. I know I'm going to get caught. There's no way I'm not going to get caught. Either they're going to see me do it or somebody's going to tell on me. So I'm already knowing I'm going to the hole. And I'd rather take my pictures down, take my time taking shit down so they don't get ripped and my shit gets packed the way I want it to get packed, instead of letting one of these COs do it and my shit gets all fucked up. So that's what we do. Anyway, so everything's packed up in the cell. I'm ready to go to the hole. I'm ready to hit this individual. I go to the weight pile. There's a hermano over there working out. I go over there. I take my shirt off. I pick up a fucking pick up a curl bar and I start hitting a couple sets. Right. The gun tower's watching. There's yard officers that are watching. They're waiting. They're anticipating retaliation. So, you know, I had to be on my P's and Q's, man. I had to do this with some finesse. I couldn't be sloppy about it. So I was trying to be inconspicuous, man. I went over there to weight pile. I picked up a curl bar and I hit a couple sets. So after I hit a couple sets, I tell the homie, I'm like, hey, give me that, bro. Let me get that, right? So the way he does it, man, was sloppy. And this wasn't the smartest dude, man. He just wasn't the smartest cat. It was a cat named Negro from Chole, man. Good dude, but he just wasn't the smartest cat. Little short, dark-skinned cat with a big old whip, man. So he's like, here, bro, here. And I'm like, hold up, homie. The fucking tower's looking right now, right? And he's like, he got it in the shirt. And he's like, here, bro, just take it. And I'm like, oh, bro, come on, man. So I grab it and I put it in my fucking, I put it in my waistband. And I'm like, I'm gone, bro. I'm out of here. And I'm literally gonna make a beeline. I'm not even gonna walk a couple laps now because I know they fucking seen the exchange, man. I know they seen it. The gun tower was looking right at us, man, and the gun tower was right over the recreation, where I used to, the recreation clerk, that little enclosure. It's right above that, and the weight pile is right in front of that. So I know that he seen me, man. So I'm like, I'm going straight for building 5. So as soon as I start to walk away, a cat that I barely even had talked to, man, I just said what's up to him a couple of times. A cat named Fabian from King City. He's like, hey, homie. He's like, who's going with you? And I'm like, nobody, bro. And he's like, fuck that. I'm going with you, bro. Right? And I'm like, cool. You know what I mean? Because I know that once I hit this dude, we're going to squab, man. I'm going to probably squab with them youngsters. They're going to come to his aid. So at least I got the homie, right? Anyway, I make a beeline. I come out the weight pile and I'm making a beeline straight. I mean, I literally come out of the fucking weight pile. I make a hard left and I'm walking straight towards building 5. My thinking at that time was I'm walking straight to this dude, and as soon as I get over there, I'm just gonna rush and I'm gonna hit him. You know what I mean? So I'm walking. Fabian's with me, and we're cutting straight through the fucking field. We're walking across the grass. As I get halfway there, I see building 4. I see the fucking door open up. The front door. It opens up. I see it opening. 2 fucking yard officers come walking through that door. And now they're walking straight towards me. They're gonna cut me off. I'm walking towards building 5, but they're coming at me towards the angle. So they're gonna cut me off before I get there. And they're walking straight towards me. I'm like, bro, they're onto us, homie. They're fucking onto us. Look at them. I can tell, you know what I mean? They didn't just come out of the building and they're not talking and looking around. They're straight fucking walking straight towards me. And they're not turning their heads. They're not talking. They're just looking straight at me. So I'm like, bro, they're onto us, homie. I'm like, let's go over here and drop this piece, right? So there was a bunch of homies that were standing in front of the watch office, or like the laundry area, that knew what was going to happen. And they were standing there basically just going to watch. They were going to watch me hit this dude. So we start cutting straight for those dudes, for the homies. These COs are still coming, and they're coming fast, and they're coming straight at us, man. As soon as I get over there with the homies, I reach in my waistband, and I grab the pedazo, and these 2 yard officers are about 30, 40 feet from us. And they're like, hey, all you guys, get up on grab the gate. Get up on the gate, turn and face the gate. So everybody turns around and puts their hands up, and we're all on the gates. I take the pedazo and I throw it through the fence. Whoop! The motherfucker ends up, it just goes through the fence and it drops right in front of me, man. It wasn't because I was being sloppy. It just because there was just nothing else that I could do. The only other thing I could do was just throw the motherfucker, chunk it in front of him on top of the roof or something. I had to just kind of like just do it without, you know, them detecting it, or without them seeing it as much as I could. But unfortunately, man, the motherfucker just dropped right in front of me. So they're searching. They're going through everybody, and they're going through everybody's pockets. They're searching them, and then they come up to me. They start searching me, and as they're searching me, they look through the fence and they see it. Boom! They slap the cuffs off, and I hear him right there. One of them tells the other one, I seen him pick it up. Matter of fact, no, it wasn't the other officer that told him that. It was he heard it on the radio. The tower radioed the yard officer and said he picked it up on the way pile. We seen him retrieve the weapon from the way pile. So that incident right there ended up getting me and Fabian thrown in the hole. They seen Fabian walking with me, and because of that, they're like, hey, this other guy, he was walking with them, so let's get him too. So they snatch us up, and you know, they take us to the watch office, and we go to the watch office, and they put us in the fucking cage for about 8 hours. Man, I don't know if you guys have ever been handcuffed for about 8 hours, but it hurts so fucking bad that you're ready to just tap out and beg, please take the cuffs off, man, because my shoulders were burning so bad that, I mean, man, it hurt. You know, and they wouldn't take the cuffs off. You know, every time man, take the cuffs off, man, I can't feel my shoulders, man. You know what I mean? I need double cuffs, and they had 1 pair of cuffs on me. But anyway, so we go to the watch office. They write us up. In the meantime, they're making reservations for motherfucking hotel ADSEG. You know what I mean? We're going to ADSEG. Back to ADSEG. And by this time, Geronimo had went back to ADSEG himself for I think he got caught with a weapon in his cell or something, man. But anyway, so he's back over there. So me and Fabian, we end up selling up together. We get written up for possession of a A1 offense, possession of a stabbing instrument, and you know, basically we get held there until that 115, which is a disciplinary infraction, a write-up, gets adjudicated. And it took about 3 or 4 months, man. So, when we got there, we were stuck there for a minute. After 30 days, we went to ICC for the first time, or for the second time, and they basically just kept on putting it over until the 115 was resolved. So, I mentioned this already to you guys before, but I'm gonna talk about it again because I'm gonna go over everything that happened. Just based on the fact that I've talked about it during a live or I've mentioned it before, it doesn't mean I'm not going to mention it here because there's other people that are hearing inner demons for the first time. Anyway, Geronimo was security at that time. He was OA, the overall authority. That's what the OA is. It's the overall authority for the Hermanos, for the Norteño Collective. Basically, he ran the whole. He was responsible for every Norteño that was in that hole. And usually the whole ADSEG usually has reign over the entire institution. So Homeboy was the one that was calling shots at that time. Now, as soon as we got back to ADSEG, the training starts back up again. We start getting indoctrinated on the bonds, the format, weaponry. We're studying all that stuff. We're encouraged to read Middle Eastern philosophy and all that kind of stuff, man. And we go back to school. Basically, school's back in session. Back in those days, in 90, 91, 92, they still allowed us to smoke in prison. And if you weren't able to buy your own tobacco on canteen, CDC provided tobacco for you. They used to give out top tobacco, that yellow shit, coming in yellow packaging. When they would every week they pass out supplies. In any institution, any county jail, it's always like that. On a weekly basis or at some point during the week, they pass out supplies. They give you your Comet, your cleanser, so that you can clean the cell, disinfectant, a Brillo pad, and then they load you up on your necessities. Some fucking powder toothpaste that tastes like fucking Ajax. Some soap, some fucked up soap that'll dry you up. That'll dry you up like a fucking just shit that makes you chalky as fuck, man. The soap over there dries you to fuck. The water's bad enough, but the soap too, man, is some cheap ass shit that will dry you up, man. But anyway, so they give you all the stuff that toilet paper, soap, all your hygienic shit. And then they would pass out tobacco for those that smoked and matches. So there was a homeboy named Sapo from Oakland, and he was in B section. And apparently he had a neighbor that was a Southsider, and the Southsider didn't have no matches. He came in and he needed a light. He banged on the homie's wall, and he's like, "Hey, bro, you got a book of matches? So, I need a light," which is harmless, man. You know what I'm saying? There's an abundance of matches in there as it is, so it's not like homeboy did anything wrong, man. At that time, I was young. I didn't know any better, but he was being a courteous neighbor. Hey, homeboy needed a fucking light, and he slid him a book of matches. Because he did that, Geronimo, in his mind of minds, he looked at it as if the homeboy Sapo gave the Sureño the means to construct a weapon, which doesn't make no sense. As many books, they give matches out there in the institution. The COs give them. You could probably get them at any time if you just ask them, "Hey, can I get a book of matches?" They used to just give them away, but based on the fact that the homie gave them to him, Geronimo looked at it as, you know what, he broke policy. He violated policy by giving that Southsider, the enemy, a book of matches. He gave this individual the means to construct a weapon. because he could take those matches and he could burn some plastic and he could make a weapon and he could stab me or you with that weapon. Doesn't make sense, but that was his justification. So the wheels were turning already, man. Geronimo got at me and the homie, and he's like, "Look, you guys are gonna hit Sapo. We're gonna get him over here in A section. You guys are gonna hit him because we can't." I came to find out through an investigation that homeboy gave some matches to his vecino, right, which is a Southsider. And even though I was uneducated at that time, man, it rubbed me the wrong way. It was like, damn, bro, we're gonna hit the homie behind some shit like that. And this is a good brother too, man. You know what I mean? But the way I was always educated, the way I was educated was that you don't ask questions, man. You can't, there's nothing, you know, when you're given a directive, it's not open for debate. Whether you agree with it or not is irrelevant. It's not your place, and it's not your business to question a directive that an authority figure hands down. So even though I felt some type of way about it, I didn't say nothing, man. You know, he told us to put a piece together, and that during the next program we were gonna come out, we were gonna blast the homie. So that's what we did, man. You know, it's fucked up, man. That's how fast loyalty changes within this game, though, man. You know, let's just take any other situation. You know, not even this one. We'll take this one out of the equation. But you can be out on the yard, kicking it with the homies, and you know, I could know you from doing time somewhere else, or I just might have met you right there, and I mean, I embrace you. You know, you seem like a good dude, and you know, at that time, you're functioning and you're in good standings. I'm willing to put my life on the line for you. I'll go to battle for you. I'll basically put my life out. You know, I would die for any Norteño if that situation ever came up, and that's something I always took serious, man. But my point is you know, that kind of carnalismo and all that, and that kind of dedication can turn just like that. Because you know, one minute I can be talking to you and we could be kicking it, chopping it up, and I could be embracing you as a good homie. But then I'll spin off and I'll go over here and the homies will be talking about, hey, his number just came up. We just got a fucking wheel out from Solano, and this dude ran back in '83 in a melee. Or, you know, this dude testified in a case involving, and just that fast, man. A minute ago, I would have put my life on the line for you. I would have done anything to protect you, and I would have went and battled right beside you. But now, I'm thinking of different ways to hurt you. And that's how quick loyalty drops, man. Geronimo put a green light on him. He told us to go in and construct a weapon, which we did. Came out, and Sapo came out to program, and Sapo wasn't no dummy. He knew something was going on, man, because he told me, man. He was like, "Hey, B," he's like, "Is everything good, bro?" And I didn't do nothing wrong, did I? And I'm like, "Nah, why you say that, bro?" And, you know, I had to deceive the homie. That's the other part that I felt fucked up about. You know, that I had to look him in his eyes and lie to him and tell him that he was good, man. Because he was like, man, I don't know, I'm just picking up something in the air, bro. Like, I did something wrong, or like, hey, bro, if I done something, let me know, man. You know what I mean? I don't want to get in trouble, and you know, I've never gotten in trouble. Nah, homie, you're good, bro. You know, you're good, man. As far as I know, there's nothing going on with you, bro. You're straight, homie. You know, so anyway, he was like, all right, box, you know. So anyway, I got the pedazo. It's in my hand. It's just a little banger, man. It's a little piece of plastic that was I burned for making out of styrofoam cups, and maybe some fucking plastic spoons. It's so small. It's so small that actually the end of the piece will sit right here on my finger, and I use my finger like that, and it's like a 2 or 3 hitter quitter, man. When it comes time to hit Sapo, me and Fabian had already talked about it, and you know, we already had it formulated how we were gonna do it, and I had the weapon, and I put my towel around my neck so that I could have the weapon in my hand and be holding my towel, and you never even know. And Fabian came up on the other side of him, and we're standing there. The other homies are showering. We're watching TV, and we're just kind of chilling, just rapping with the homie. And you know, it's on me when I want to pull the trigger. Again, it's on me. I got the weapon, so I'm preying on the element of surprise, man. You know, when I'm watching him out of my peripheral, I could see his movements, and I could, you know, Fabian's talking to him like he's supposed to, and I could see when he turns his head and he's engaged with Fabian, and that's when I'm gonna get him. So, you know, I let him talk, and I continue to watch him out of my peripheral, and it was one of those times when he turned to look at Fabian to engage in conversation, and that's when I just turned and I hit him. Bop, bop, bop. I hit him like 4 or 5 times until the weapon broke. The whole tip just popped off, man. And I mean, you know, a piece like that, you're not gonna kill nobody. All you're gonna really do is you're gonna make them bleed a little bit. You're gonna put some holes in them. It's more about making a point than anything, man. And that's what happened. You know, but when I hit Sapo, I hit him like 4 times. I grabbed him by the shirt and I started spinning him around, and we were going in circles, and I was hitting him. I was using the momentum to throw him off balance and to my advantage. Anyway, when I let go, you know, different people, you know, and this is not a slight towards the homie, man, but different people react different when they get hit like that. Sometimes they go into shock. Sometimes it's such a fucking, it catches them so off guard that they just freeze, man, because they can't believe what's happening. Well, he started screaming, and he ran, and the inside of ADSEG over there, you got 3 sections, A, B, and C, and there's chain link fences that cordon off the sections, and on top of the fences there's barbed wire. So he starts screaming, and he's leaking, man. I hit him pretty good. That little weapon was sharp. That little pedazo was sharp. So I hit him I gave him a necktie, hit him in the throat a couple times in the face. He ran to the gate and climbed up the fence, almost into the barbed wire. And you know, the gunner told us to all lay down. He freaked out, man. You know what I mean? I tripped out how he did that. They didn't see exactly who hit him. They seen the commotion, and they seen me and Fabian in the immediate area. So when I hit him, I slid the piece under one of the doors. One of the homies stayed in. I slid the piece under the door, and the tip that was on the ground, Fabian took the tip and put it in his mouth. Homeboys are sad for that, man. But he put it in his mouth so, you know, they wouldn't find the weapon. Boom, picked up another A1 offense, another 360 days, and it's another DA referral. So now I'm sitting on 2 DA referrals, one for possession of a weapon and one for a stabbing. So that made my stay right there in ADSEG, Hotel ADSEG. I stayed there a couple more months, man. This is probably a good time to cut it, but so the DA rarely picks up cases like this in prison. At least back then, it was almost unheard of. You catch a stabbing or you catch a possession of a weapon, and they really didn't pick them up, man. It really had to be an ugly case in order for them to pursue it. But anyway, the way it all worked out was Fabian was short. I had 7 years. So they could break my ass off. They could max me out and they could keep me for a couple more years. But he was short and he was already maxed out. So he was like, "Hey B, if I can, I'm gonna take both these cases, bro. Because they can't give me no more time. You know what I mean? I'm gonna take the pedazo on the yard, I'm gonna tell him it was mine, and I'm gonna take this stabbing. I'm gonna tell him it was me, bro, and that you didn't have nothing to do with it. Is that if I can take it, they can't fucking do shit. Yeah, if I come back to prison, I'm gonna have a shoe program waiting for me. But he's like, I don't give a fuck about that. This way, we don't. It makes no sense in both of us going down, bro. You know what I mean? And hopefully, maybe you can get kicked back out to the yard. Good ass homeboy, man. And I would have done the same thing for him, man. It made no sense for us both to go down on this shit. One of us. It would have been better if one of us took the rap. And in that situation, being that he was short to the house and he was already maxed out, it made more sense for him to do it. He did it, and they allowed him to do it. He pled guilty to both infractions, which basically freed me up. The next time I went to committee, they'd end up kicking me back out to the Lassen yard. So when I come back, episode 14, I'll talk about what happened after I got kicked out, after ICC kicked me back out to the 3 yard, and exactly what happened after that. There's still a bunch of incidents that kicked off out there within that short period of time. I didn't stay out on the main line for too long, man, but a lot of stuff happened. So I'll get into it in episode 14. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode, and I'm out.